Howard Lindzon is the founder and general partner at Social Leverage. All opinions expressed by Howard and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Social Leverage or StockTwits. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon for decisions. Guests may maintain positions and securities discussed in this podcast.
Yo, Canute.
Hey, Howard. How are you?
I'm good. I'm texting.
Okay.
So just carry the show. Nikita, you and Canute talk for a sec.
Sounds good. Hey, Canute, what's up?
Not much. How you doing, Nikita?
Is this what I'd have to put up with if I died?
Yes.
You too? I'm bored already. My texting is more exciting than that conversation.
Oh, well, sorry.
Sure.
All right, then get moving, Howard. Go on.
Great. I'm just finishing my story. Hang on. Great. Thanks for coming on my podcast.
Oh, my God.
Great to host you. Thank you. Send. What's the sound that it makes?
Thank God there's editing.
Why are you editing? This is riveting life. This is life in Howard's in Howiestown.
Yes, it is.
So welcome to the podcast. I'm excited for the summer.
So am I.
Why?
Because I get to be out of the heat of Phoenix.
And you're going to the City of Lights.
Are you coming to Vancouver?
Yeah, it's light 24/7 where he's going.
I wouldn't mind going to Vancouver, but no, I'm going to the land of the midnight sun.
Ooh.
Wyoming?
Yes, Howard. Yes.
Norway. All right. Today is Crypto Day. I have my good friend Vinny Lingham. He's from South Africa. I'm not sure which city. And I haven't seen him in forever because of COVID. But we did hang out quickly for a tea and a 20-minute catch-up. And now I invited him on the podcast to really get caught up because we just experienced an epic crash in crypto. And Vinny is all in on crypto, has been from the beginning, kind of an oracle on the subject. We met, this is a funny story, I was in Ireland at a fintech conference. Gary had invested in his last company called Gift, GYFT.com. It got bought by First Data. And I'm like alone, and I was there. I was just networking. I saw eToro and blah, blah, blah. And Vinny was there. And I saw Vinny. I go, Vinny, I'm in Ireland. I got to golf. We were at the town where the Titanic was built. That's what it's famous for. Your claim to fame is like the biggest sinking in history. Good building.
Yeah.
Ireland.
Good job.
Yeah. And I said, like, I want to go golfing. And Vinny doesn't really golf, but he got the vibe. And he was like, yeah, let's do it. And he arranged a car. We went out to Royal County Down, which is a fucking great golf course. Brutal for a person like Vinny who does. Brutal for me, and I'm average. Brutal for Vinny, who's kind of a beginner. And it was typical Ireland. Windy and rainy and blah, 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 and dark and light and hail. And we had a great time. And I think Vinny lost 60, 70 golf balls. We finally ran out of golf balls earlier than light and walked off. And then went back to the city of Titanic, whatever city that was. And then we were friends, blah, blah, blah. And I remember golfing, because this is funny, because Vinny's like a consummate entrepreneur. We were literally in Ireland. He's buying domains. He's on his iPhone. We're buying website domains. I go, can you not enjoy where we're at? And he's pitching me ideas while we were golfing. And that's where he had the domain Civic. And that's when he came up with Civic.com. We invested in Civic, which is now a token and security space. We'll talk a little bit about that. But he's been a prolific investing in crypto and being the Pied Piper of decentralization. It happens to be people from South Africa, obviously. They know a thing or two about freedom and fleeing and liberty and oppression. So he has a really good point of view on all this stuff. He has also got me involved in Multicoin Capital, which I talk about a lot. We've had Kyle on the show, so he was an early backer there and brought a lot of us on board. So who better to have on after a crypto crash than Vinny? So let's get him on the phone.
Will do.
Vinny!
Howie! What's up?
Listen, you may lose 3 people here to food poisoning while you're at our favorite restaurant of all places. I'm having I took an Adderall right after. So if that, by the way, if I throw up and you see the pill, save the pill. They can be reused. It's not even dissolved yet.
Oh my God.
So welcome from San Diego, Vinny Lingham. Did I pronounce your name right?
Yeah, you're good.
Good enough. So when did you leave South, wherever it was, Cape Town, Johannesburg. When did you leave?
Yeah, so technically 2008, although I probably spent, the better part of like 4 or 5 months a year in the US for the 4 or 5 years prior to that. So I don't know. I kind of like spent most of my, career in the US, but officially moved to the Bay Area in 2008.
Is that where you met your wife, or where'd you meet your wife?
No, I met her actually in South Africa. So we moved together.
You moved together.
Yeah.
And do you miss San Francisco?
Not at all.
And you were Mr. San Francisco. You were like, I got to move there. That's where the action is. And do you think, and you did it for the right reasons. Are you happy to be out?
How would I left before COVID hit.
Right.
That's how badly I wanted to get out. I missed all the traffic going out because I was about a year and about 15 months before COVID hit. I got out of there. I was like, this is peak. Property prices were peaking. You could tell because I used to go to Tahoe from 2008 onwards. It's a good 2.5, 3 hours. Okay, 3 hours drive would be a good drive there. It was like 5 hours, 6 hours. Like the traffic was insane.
That's bizarre.
The hotel prices.
Hotel prices were ridiculous of what I would have to pay. I remember 2009, 2010, I'd go to the W in Union or whatever it was there, and by the Moscone Center, it'd be 100 and something a night. And it was like 800 a night by the end. I remember in 2015 when you were starting like 16, I was like, I'm not coming. I stopped going like in 2016. I'm like, let it keep going up, but it can go up without me.
I mean, for me, 2018 was peak Bay Area in terms of like driving into San Francisco took an hour and 45 minutes from I lived out in Los Altos, Palo Alto area. So it was from Los Altos an hour and 45.
Crazy
each way. There's no real good transportation. I mean, the Caltrain kind of gets you there, but it just gets you to the front. Then you have to go through San Francisco. San Francisco's a mess. The needles, the crime, it's just like, why would anyone want to go there? And I apologize to people living in San Francisco, but like the other day I walked past two guys in an Audi, just shooting it up like broad daylight.
I mean, if you're going to shoot it up, do it in nice weather. Like go to San Diego.
Exactly.
That's our tagline of San Diego. Come shoot up with us.
Yeah, exactly. So I was like, I'm down with this place.
Listen, if I make myself laugh, that's good. I know you're going to be laughing if I'm laughing at my own joke, because I rarely do that. It's insulting. All right, so you moved down to glorious San Diego, where Gary and I are. So you knew San Diego was great all along, because you kind of were jonesing for it, but you finally had the freedom to do it. So let's go right into crypto. I told the golf story, how we hung out and Gary introduced us, and you were an investor in Gift. Hopefully I didn't embellish too much of it, but it was just funny to see you kind of working. We're at one of the most famous golf courses in the most miserable weather. You're just like, Howard, look at this website and look at this. And I'm like, dude, I can barely see because wind was coming and rain was going sideways. Yeah. So I just think it's a good reminder of how people, I mean, there's no way to make money unless you're working all the time. I mean, unfortunately, people think that it's like easy, but my first take of you was like, fuck, we're in Ireland. I'm trying to take half a day or a full day off to golf, and you're around me working. And I was just like trying to survive. So what is it that drives you?
It's an interesting question. I think certain entrepreneurs have this inner sort of drive, inner inertia, where you just keep going. And I don't even know why I do it, but I just keep going. It's fun. It's interesting. You meet cool people. You do fun things. It's intellectually satisfying, I guess, on many levels. So that's kind of why I do it, and that's why I got involved in crypto, etc. I just think it's fascinating what's happening in the world and how technology changes everything and how disruption just happens and improves things, right? Like with all the changes we've had over the past decade or two, we actually just have a lot more time. I get a lot more done in far less time than I've ever done before. I'm far more effective at getting things done without having to brute force time into the problem. Which is cool. So I'm a student of life, I guess.
How old are you now?
I'm 42.
Oh, so you're a baby. Okay. Well, congrats. Fuck. And when was I know you got me, Yoni was the first guy to mention it to me, but you were really 2014-ish, very on the bandwagon. Is it because you understood it from where you came from and in South Africa in general, or was it just your understanding? What was it that set it off for you?
It's actually more. It was more of getting into crypto and Bitcoin 2013 with Gift was actually more of a necessity than anything else.
Oh, right.
So we were struggling with credit card payments because we would take credit card payments from people anywhere in the world, just about, and we had massive amounts of fraud. We had fraud from Ghana, Nigeria, South Africa, everywhere. So we basically had to trim down where we accepted credit card payments from. And it's for me, it was just weird because we've got this mobile app which anyone anywhere in the world can download, buy gift cards from Amazon and hundreds of other retailers, but we can't accept the payment mechanisms that they have in these foreign countries because the risk of fraud from Nigeria, Ghana, South Africa was really high. The risk of fraud, even in the US, is pretty high. I got tons of stories to tell you about online fraud. And so what I was looking for was a digital cash system. How do I just receive some coins digitally and not have to worry about repudiation of the transaction? And so I was chatting to a friend of mine. He told me about Bitcoin, which I'd heard of before, but I didn't take seriously. And I was like, okay, let me look into this. And I started looking into Bitcoin and bought some Bitcoin, played around with it, integrated it into the Gift platform, and it took off because we basically were the first place. Back in those days, you didn't have exchanges. So if you had Bitcoin, you couldn't really spend it or sell it. It was just really hard to do that. And we made it really easy for you to spend your Bitcoin at 55,000 stores in America. You can walk into any store, buy a gift card on your phone, pay for it, and instantly get a gift card. We didn't even wait for block confirmation times. We just issue a gift card because back then it was safe and secure for us to do that, and it worked.
And is that what First Data like? Was it a quick process or was it not?
I mean, the M&A took about 5 months, 6 months, but they liked the platform, the brand, the merchants we had. They weren't that excited about the Bitcoin side of it. And to be fair, I grew the business to, a couple of $100 million a year in sales after the acquisition. And most of that didn't come from Bitcoin, but the early sales did come from Bitcoin.
The early traction that got you pivoted in the right direction. Yeah.
Yeah. So we at one stage, we were 5% of all Bitcoin transactions on the blockchain running through Gift. So it was pretty significant.
Do you remember what exchange you bought your first Bitcoin on?
I bought it from an individual, a friend in Silicon Valley.
But how did you buy it though?
I gave him a check. And he gave me some Bitcoin.
But how did he send them to you? Or how did he give them to you?
I downloaded a wallet and he sent it to me.
It's just a downloaded a wallet. Got it.
Back in those days, it was a very simple wallet.
Have you ever lost Bitcoin?
I haven't lost Bitcoin, but I've had a phone that had about 70 Bitcoin on it when we were testing a Gift, where one of the developers wiped the phone. And I was like, dude, there was Bitcoin on there. 70 Bitcoin gone. And back in those days, it was worth, it wasn't worth that much. It was worth maybe $1,000 or something. Today, it's worth a lot more.
And what is the preferred exchange for you today? Can you say, or do you just keep it everywhere or in cold storage?
I believe in, I like using custodians. I don't like using exchanges necessarily to store Bitcoin. But Coinbase is great for buying Bitcoin. But I tell people don't leave your coins on any exchanges. There's just lots of risks, which, look, it depends how much you have, right? So one of the things people get wrong is there's no such thing as absolute advice in crypto.
Correct.
Okay. If you said to me, where do you store your Bitcoin, Vinny? Well, how much Bitcoin? $1,000 worth? Exchange is fine. 10,000 exchange is fine. 100,000, maybe relative to your wealth, exchanges are fine. But when you start going to really big numbers, then you have to look at alternatives.
And so today, from 2014 in general, what has changed the most other than adoption? Is Bitcoin still as relevant to you as it was back then and just set and forget, or has something changed?
I'll be honest about this, and I have been pretty honest about this. I'm still skeptical as to the scalability of Bitcoin in the long term. And, I'm happy to be proven wrong. And the store of value narrative is the new narrative. When I got involved in Bitcoin, it was about, digital currency, peer-to-peer currency. And so the narrative was changed by community, people, whoever. And so, Elon coming down on Bitcoin right now means that he kind of doesn't buy the narrative either. It's energy inefficient and the whole ESG thing that they got going right now on Bitcoin mining. I still have concerns, but it doesn't mean you shouldn't own Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And I own Bitcoin, and I tell people if you're going to have a portfolio, you've got to have Bitcoin in it. We don't know where the world goes. It makes sense to have it. Does it make sense to be 100% Bitcoin? Absolutely not. And over the past years, my non-Bitcoin holdings have outperformed Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. And that's because maybe I'm just better at picking the right coins, etc. I don't actually do a lot of trading, but it's Bitcoin is the first coin. It's foolish to believe it'll be the only coin, and clearly it isn't. And there are lots of other coins that have different use cases and utility. The Bitcoin narrative hasn't played out yet. Like when we get to Bitcoin at millions of dollars of Bitcoin, maybe it'll be a different discussion. But even now in this run, many people didn't believe we'd see a 50% pullback. I tweeted about it like a week before it happened. People were like, "Oh, institutions are coming. You're never going to see a big drawdown in Bitcoin again." It was all bullish like mindset, and I've seen this happen so many times, and people they don't get it. The store of value narrative isn't right, because it's like Bitcoin is not a store of value right now. It may become one in the future, but it's not a store of value. You can't have an asset lose 50% of its value in a week. I mean, that doesn't make any sense, right? So I get that they're trying to have it become a store of value over time. I just don't think it's there yet.
That's interesting. It's a moving narrative, I guess, and that's not healthy.
Yeah.
A moving narrative, even if it's...
Well, I'd say it's moving less now, because it used to be peer-to-peer currency, and then it became digital gold. And that's the current narrative, and maybe it changes.
Yeah, it's an evolving narrative.
Yeah, it's evolving. Like Musk challenged the narrative by saying that, even though before that...
Musk killed the institutional trade. Musk killed it. Like any institution that's looking to buy it, now they're worried about the woke mobs going after them because they're buying and holding Bitcoin. So everyone was like, well, Bitcoin's going to go to 100,000, 500,000, $1 million this year because all the institutions are going to pile in. That narrative got killed. It dead in the tracks.
No, that's a good point.
Apparently, it was the same day that Goldman actually started their first Bitcoin derivative trade. The day that it crashed,
But maybe their derivative trade was to short it.
Probably.
Yeah. So it really is. And what's your position on the way he... I even saw Fred Wilson chimed in that he loves Musk but doesn't like his tweets. Do you care what's going on in the narrative?
I mean, I think that if you have a global decentralized currency or whatever you want to call it for the world, it should be impossible for one person's opinions to move it if it was truly sort of liquid. And the problem with Bitcoin is,
good point.
It's not that liquid. If we think about it, it just isn't. There's just too much.
Well, anything that drops 50% just can't be that liquid.
That's exactly it. And a lot of it's, I've held these debates over time. A lot of this is held, like the top 1,000 wallets own like 50 or 60% of all the Bitcoin out there, right? So it's highly concentrated in the hands of a few people. And I say a few, but 1,000 people is not a lot.
Yeah, the signs were all there, the rapid rise, the consensusness about it. Musk contributed to that by putting it on the balance sheet, MicroStrategy, Laser Eyes, Diamond Hands. It was just like a consensus, like you're an idiot for not owning it. And it's fun to watch. I hate saying that because I lost some money too, obviously, but...
we all did. We all did in the crashes. Like I lost money as well, but it's not about that. Like I'm in it for the long term in crypto, and my Bitcoin holdings will fluctuate and I don't care. But I feel sorry for people who have all their money in Bitcoin.
It makes no sense to me.
But this is what people do. And then Michael Saylor gives us advice to people as well. Like the maximalist approach to Bitcoin is very dangerous. And you play with people's lives in a very bad way, because not everyone can, survive another 3-year bear market, right? They need their capital. So unfortunately, people get bad financial advice. At the end of the day, you can't pay your taxes in Bitcoin. You have to sell it at some point to pay food, accommodation, whatever you need. So you got to have a balanced portfolio of assets. Like it's just really bad financial advice to tell everyone put all your eggs in one basket. No one does that.
I was literally thinking of Michael Saylor. Like he said that you should be mortgaging your house to buy Bitcoin, and you should be buying the dip right now. Terrible
financial advice.
Yeah. But I think they're all getting away with it. It's become like the new Justin Timberlake is, you know what I mean? The new Madonna is, there's no celebrities anymore. It's like financial celebrity is the new celebrity. And these people can get themselves on 1,000 podcasts and YouTube themselves. And you only have to be right for a year, and now you're God.
Yeah.
What's his name? Who everybody loves was... I'm so bad with names. But anyways, moving on to the next. I just have senior moment after senior moment around name. No, the guy, the truly institutional guy, the consultant guy who's now speaking to us about economics and whatever his name is. Dalio.
Oh, Ray Dalio. Oh, right.
But at least he did it for 30 years.
Right.
These other guys are doing it for like 2 years, and they're becoming like institutional gods. And we're seeing it with Kathy too. Kathy, I mean, she's not an overnight success, but everything's Kathy Woods. So... what was it about Multicoin that got you excited? What was it about Kyle and Tushar? How'd you meet them? And I've had them on the show a couple times.
There's a couple of things. The one is when I dug in, I had about 5 hedge funds get hold of me trying to get me on board as a partner in their funds. They were all trying to raise money, manage money. Obviously, I'm pretty well connected in Silicon Valley. So I was actually actively looking to join or be a partner at a crypto hedge fund, investment fund. I don't want to run it myself, obviously, as running Civic, but I want to get involved and just bring capital in and bring insights and knowledge that I have in the industry in. And so they were starting out. They impressed me tremendously in sort of the thesis-driven approach they had to investing in crypto. But what impressed me most was the key management side of things, because like every time I prodded everyone else on how do you manage keys, how do you keep the capital safe, because like the last thing I wanted was to join a fund and bring in $100 million in capital from my friends and you and everyone else, and then they get hacked, right? That was like my biggest fear.
Yep.
And so I actually drilled down pretty deeply on that with them. And that was what impressed me the most about them, is they were very thoughtful about how they did key management and how they kept the assets safe and secure and the philosophy going forward. So I joined them pretty much at the end of 2017. And I came on board as a general partner to, raise capital, think about the market, bring on deals, etc. And it went really well. I mean, like in the beginning, like they were pretty unknown. No one knew who they were. Made a couple of phone calls, got you involved, David Sachs and, Craft Ventures, et cetera, and a few others, and just the kind of the snowball effect of everyone piling in. And Multicoin became probably the preeminent fund right now in crypto, in crypto at the moment. So that was great. And I managed to bring in deals like Solana as well for the firm. So they needed a Silicon Valley presence because the guys are based in Austin and I was in Silicon Valley. So it just made total sense. And we also were very aligned in being sort of Bitcoin maximalists about the fund. And, it's called multi-coin capital. So, multiple coins. So for me, that was some of the other funds I spoke to. They just wanted to pile money to Bitcoin and charge 2 and 20 to manage Bitcoin. And I thought that was kind of stupid. And so, I just enjoyed my interactions with them, and we came together, and it's paid off really well. And Multicoin's a huge success.
And so what's exciting about crypto today? Like, what excites you?
I think it's still a thought experiment that's being played out. I like the diversity of thinking that's in the industry right now. So you still have the layer 2 sort of experimentation that's happening either on top of Ethereum or even Bitcoin to some extent. And then you've got the layer 1 experiments like Polkadot and Solana, which I'm a fan of. You've got decentralized storage that's happening. A lot of this is experimentation. We're trying to see how this plays out. So I don't think there's any clear path, but we know that there's a lot of smart people trying to figure out what is the next generation infrastructure for the web looks like? What does Web 3.0 look like? And that's kind of my thesis, is how do we look at distributed compute, distributed storage, and also just think about the world differently. Like how do you get to the point where this is a really, really liquid marketplace? I mean, I'll go back to Bitcoin for a second. Like in Bitcoin, I say to people that Bitcoin is not that liquid because, well, you have to use exchanges, right? So exchanges are actually layer 2, and like something like Lightning's probably more like a layer 3. And that's because you can't use Bitcoin to trade for goods and services directly. You actually have to go through an intermediary to get a market price and then back into, so you'll sell the coins on an exchange, etc. For something to be really liquid, you have to have millions and millions of transactions going through it, every day. And Bitcoin's not there. DeFi is closer to that in the sense that people are using it to extract yield. It doesn't always go through exchanges. You have farms and staking, etc. But again, we're playing a series of experimentations across multiple layers, and it's very, very Darwinian in a sense, right? The survival of the fittest. Like, let's see what's going to happen and what protocols win out.
And do you think it's moving fast enough? Or is people just expect more because we live in a real-time world? Or is it happening in a way that got you excited or nervous? Or are the days you just go... Because I know you've had periods where we've walked and you've said, it's just not working. Like the people are crazy in the space. But then, another bull cycle happens. So where are we at?
I mean, I think that it's multi-industry, multi-geographic. And so the problem is the ebbs and flows are not uniform. It's like the ebbs and flows in decentralized storage versus DeFi versus Bitcoin versus everything else. It's definitely sort of geolocated to some extent, like certain parts of the world, certain cultures, certain languages. You get certain cryptos that no one in English has ever heard of that operate in Russia, for example, or China. So as an industry, I think the ebb and flow of it is it feels quite fast, but it's not happening that quickly. Like, yeah, look, DeFi has gone from a couple of billion TVL to nearly 100 in a year. So that's pretty quick. So that's interesting and it's worth paying attention to. 100 billion TVL, probably not that, big a number in the grand scheme of global commerce, but it's getting up there. I think I'm expecting a bit of a bear market for a while now, where we go sideways before we try and go for new heights in Bitcoin. So I don't expect us to break the 63,000 level again. I think we'll be floating around here, and there could be some more scary moments over the next couple of months. But I tweeted out that it's more like 2013 and 2017 when we saw a double bubble in that year. But if things move up too quickly and the market gets ahead of itself, we're going to go into another bear market for 3 years, and that's just the way it is.
And how did you come to meet Solana? Because it's so young. So what brought you to Solana?
So I invested in a company started by a guy named David Quick, and he's a Bay Area entrepreneur. Anyway, long story, he introduced me to Anatoly, and who's the founder of Solana, and said, "Hey, listen, I don't really know this crypto stuff, but a good friend of mine is doing it. You should chat to him." And I was like, oh boy, another crypto guy. Come into my office, let's go and meet up. And Anatoly came to my office, and first 5 minutes I was skeptical, and then after 10 minutes I'm like, actually, this could work. And then after 20 minutes, okay, you're a really smart guy. I don't care what you're doing. I want to put money in behind it. And that was the beginning of it. And I was like, okay, poured it into Multicoin, and we got behind them.
And so it's just a venture deal.
It was me looking for good new protocols, I guess. And look, it's the only layer 1 protocol that I got behind.
And explain layer 1. So what does layer 1 mean? Layer
1 is where there's no settlement layer. The actual transaction happens natively on the blockchain. But Bitcoin is like that. But then Lightning, for example, is seen as layer 2. I call it layer 3. But it's batch transactions happening at a different layer in the protocol. So not every transaction on Lightning goes onto the protocol. And so there's 2 schools of thought. One school of thought is that Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies don't scale at layer 1 because you've got consensus issues and proof of work, et cetera, and so therefore you have to create a layer 2 or 2.5 or 3 system on top of that, so you can do that. I'm a big fan of just layer 1, and I think that was the whole point of blockchain. So I liked what Solana was doing, and I got pretty excited about them, and they've executed really well.
And so what does it do today? I know Multicoin's explained it, but what do you understand it is doing today? What gets you excited about it today?
Just the diversity of thought. The diversity of thought and experimentations that are happening is actually pretty. It's exciting. Look, we don't.
No, I meant about Solana. I meant about their execution. So what is it that? It's just amazing the way it's going.
No, that's what I mean. Within the ecosystem, the diversity of thought that they've had around all the different. If you look at all the projects being built on Solana right now, it's incredible. It's it's an entire ecosystem. And that's powerful. There's so many different use cases that people are experimenting with, because when you have transaction finality down to 0.4 seconds, you can do a lot.
But mainly right now it's trading.
No, it's not. There's just lots of use cases. There's things like Synthetify, Mango Markets. Look, DeFi is moving to Solana because DeFi on Ethereum is too expensive. Ethereum is still the leader and it's got most of the value there. But if you make DeFi super cheap and super quick on Solana, I expect DeFi to find its way into the Solana ecosystem, and it already has. But I expect it to accelerate there, and actually it may actually hurt Ethereum in the medium term.
That's interesting. And so, where's the best place to go? Where do you stay in touch with it all?
I'm on Twitter a lot, and I'm in a whole bunch of groups as well. So I'm on a bunch of chat groups, WhatsApp, Telegram groups, emails. But a lot of it comes from just being plugged into, obviously the Multicoin group and other people I chat to in the crypto space. And I try and keep my circle pretty small because there's just too many people to speak to.
Yeah.
But I work with my trading desks and stuff, and you get info what's going on, what's new projects, and people know how to find me. So I often just get people getting introductions to me.
And then
and that's the best, by the way.
Yeah.
The cold outreach stuff isn't very good. It's not good for me. It's not good for the entrepreneur because when you cold outreach, you're one of hundreds of people, and I have to basically ignore you because I don't have enough time in my day. And and when it's a warm introduction like with Solana, that was great. It was like someone I invested in said, speak to the CEO of Solana and founder of Solana, and it worked out.
And what is it about the macro? I mean, you're South African, we always talk about the markets. What's good, bad about the global macro right now? What are you excited about and not excited about?
Well, I'm excited about the extra, $2 trillion in stimulus. It's pretty good for crypto. 1.7 trillion, whatever it is.
It's not me. But that's good for crypto.
Like anyone who's in crypto, they should be excited about every time the U.S. government prints more money.
No, sure. But is there anything outside of crypto that has you excited in tech?
I think virtual reality is actually interesting in the metaverse. I'd say a lot more optimistic on it now. I mean, when I was a kid back in you remember the 80s and 90s and virtual reality came out, the Lawnmower Man days, and you were like, wow, this is so cool. It was so clunky and horrible. Like nobody wanted to spend any time in those virtual worlds. They were terrible. And the stuff you're seeing right now with like Somnium Space and Sandbox and like the metaverse concepts that are being played around with, like this is interesting stuff. I mean, I think Fortnite could launch some sort of a metaverse or VR world that would just basically suck up 50 million people overnight. So that's the thing. That's what I think the next frontier is. It's going to be some sort of a metaverse VR world, and that's kind of linked to crypto because I think some assets will be blockchain assets sitting in these metaverses. So I'm paying a lot of attention to that. But like the two big macro events which I'm interested in is what does VR do with things like NFT and blockchain, and then what happens to centralized finance when decentralized finance takes over. And
okay,
so those are the two things I'm looking at.
So DeFi and virtual. So in virtual, I know the new, everybody tells me the new Oculus glasses are great. Tom and Gary got a set, and we've made our own first personal foray into there. Is it Facebook that's leading it because of Oculus, you think? Or is it Tencent?
I think what Facebook is doing is very interesting with Oculus. I mean, I have Oculus and I think it's great. I think that space gets commoditized very quickly. There's just too many players in the hardware space that can build better hardware and even some better software. I think the real play is the metaverse play and how these systems interoperate. Like, Fortnite owns a lot of the content and 200 million gamers worldwide. They brought out a VR metaverse. I think the content wins out in VR. I don't think it's the hardware.
Yep. And so what is it about post-COVID that got you excited? Are you going to be traveling as much as you think? Or is it like, is enough change where you can do a lot less?
I'm traveling a lot less now, a lot less. And everyone's very comfortable doing video. So I'd rather not jump on a plane if I don't have to. I am looking forward to doing VR meetings in the future, in the next year or so. Like eventually we get to a point where people put on the headset and just go see each other in VR and have a meeting. And I really think that's going to be a thing in the next year or two.
And then what about security? I know you spent so much time with Gift and with Civic. Where are we with security? Like, what are the companies that are dominating, and what has surprised you the most in building Civic about, where we were at with security?
You're going to a restaurant, or you're going to just a random building with a whole bunch of people, and you ask them, hey guys, who amongst you care about your personal data and your privacy? And everyone will raise their hands. And then you say, okay, keep your hands up if you've got a Facebook account, and everyone will keep their hands up.
And so what is that? What is the turning point there?
This is the counterintuitive thing about data privacy and security. I think it's individually our data is not worth much. Collectively, it's worth a lot. So companies that can aggregate that information make a lot of money, but like your data is not worth much individually. Maybe you get $50, $100 a year out of it. You sold it. You'd be lucky to get that much probably. And there's so much, the problem with data is that it's individually worthless. It really is. The companies that need it, they need it at scale. They need like thousands of people to target and find that one person that they can sell something to. Mm-hmm. You getting money for your data is akin to you getting a discount on an item. That's really what it is, because it's built into the ROI for the marketer spending the money marketing to you. So this is the problem. This is the conundrum with personal data and security. Now, the world of compliance is different, where companies who need to verify IDs and information for trading and compliance, that's kind of a different play where there's actually a higher value there, because otherwise someone's going to go to jail if they have an OFAC screened user or user that hasn't been screened and is, for example, based in Iran and doing a transaction, the trader will go to jail if they do that. So that's more high value because it's, you're trying to avoid jail time for compliance reasons. But when it comes to like selling your data and personal privacy, people say they care, they don't really care.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not a Facebook person. I'm sure I'm logged in somehow, somewhere. It's just amazing how little we're trying. And maybe it's because we don't feel individual we can be. I mean, I guess I'm wrong because everybody can be harmed by. It's not worth much to me on my own, but used against me, it's a nightmare. So it's really quite a conundrum. I wonder what the tipping point finally is, or have we already passed it?
I don't know. I don't think that it's going to be a problem we can solve anytime soon.
So Facebook is still just a juggernaut.
Yep.
And when do you think you'll be able to get back to South Africa?
I'm not sure. I really am not. Maybe in the next year or so. But like they're doing such a bad job of vaccine deployment that it'd probably be a year or so. But yeah, I have no inclination to go anywhere right now.
Yeah, so you're staying.
I'm happy just chilling. Like San Diego is one of the nicest places in the world.
Yeah, so you're staying put. And then, Nikita, did you have any quick questions for Vinny?
No, I'm just absorbing it all.
Yeah, so Vinny's been like early doing this. And who are the people right now, besides Multicoin, that are fascinating? The Solana project's interesting to you. What other projects are interesting to you?
I mean, I'm a huge Filecoin supporter. I have been since 2014. It's more about, I believe in like IPFS in terms of, so the difference in IPFS and HTTP is ACP tells you to go fetch a file from a server, no matter where in the world it is. And IPFS will effectively like kind of like a BitTorrent says, hey, get this file wherever it's closest to me and you can get a local file. And so it speeds up the internet. For someone who lived in Africa for many years, having to go fetch files on US servers is kind of slow, painful process. And so with something like with IPFS, which Protocol Labs, the team that built Filecoin, built IPFS as well, it really speeds up the internet massively and actually allows for more sort of, the acronym IPFS is Interplanetary File System. So you can actually basically build the same system on Earth that you can use on the Moon and Mars as well, and basically access files that are more local, fewer hops, speed up the internet. And so I'm excited about the potential of Filecoin. Because I think that storage has to get decentralized. And the cool thing about Filecoin, which is since they launched just over 6 months ago, it's sitting on, I'm looking at the stats right now, 5.6 exabytes of data. I mean, just to put that in comparison, that's like 200 times Netflix's archive. That's how much capacity is on the network right now. Wow. So it's a massive storage network globally, with miners around the world. And it actually has a real use case for mining. The use case for Filecoin mining is making data storage available on a global scale. And that to me is interesting.
That's just, Filecoin, that's a good explanation. Who's the furthest ahead with having a digital currency, do you think?
You mean in terms of country?
Yeah.
That's China, for sure.
Because so they're going to do it, but they're going to come up with their own. And are we the furthest behind in the U.S., do you think?
I'm sure we're the furthest, but I don't think we're, America's kind of a slow mover with these sorts of things. But the politics in America around protecting the financial sector, the Goldman Sachs of the world, et cetera, is pretty big. I mean, these guys, they establish, the JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, they don't want disruption in the financial sector. Their business depends on no disruption. So China can just go and say, well, screw it, we're going to issue a digital currency. You guys have to accept it and use it and stop using whatever methods you're using right now. And it's China can do what they want. America is, a little bit more of a discussion.
It's so interesting. Goldman Sachs, all-time highs. Wells Fargo, the last 6 months, doubled. JP Morgan, all-time highs. Like, this is long after 2008, long after Bitcoin's been around, long after the drumbeat of we hate them, right? Long after COVID, when the last time you went into a bank was never. Long after neobanks. There's something fascinating about the U.S.'s. Well, I mean, something about like 50% of Wells Fargo customers still demand their statement by mail. So it's a big country, right, Vinny? So that's part of the problem. But the fact is that Wells Fargo doubling, Goldman at all-time highs, really fascinating in an era. Something's not working when you have U.S. banks at all-time highs and Bitcoin at all-time highs. You can't have it both ways. To me, it's rather fascinating. So that's an interesting point about, our fascination with, or is it just they own the country in some level? When you owe a bank $1 million, you're in trouble. But if you owe a bank $1 trillion, you're in control.
They're in trouble.
So it's really a fascinating moment. Something had to give with all these cryptos running at all-time highs and Goldman at all-time highs. Right now, it looks like the banks are back in charge because they're the ones the retail's going to scream, oh, we need the institutions to support crypto, when the whole point of crypto is we don't need the institutions. So it'll be a fascinating next year. I
agree. I'm super excited for. I want to get through this year though.
Yeah, we got to get through this year. Well, I know you're busy. I really appreciate you coming on. Took a while to get you, but I'm glad you're making it through the others. So it's good to see you finally too. It's good to be
likewise. Out
and about. Is there any action in San Diego? Like, are you seeing startups, or is it still just super distributed in San Diego? It's a tough place to find startups.
I think that the notion that startups are geographically located anymore is kind of dead. I mean, I'm seeing great startups everywhere in the world, and people are distributed, teams are distributed. I'm not seeing any geographical bias these days for any new companies. People just the founders may be based in San Diego or Austin or New York, but their teams around the world. And that's been a trend for many years, but it's definitely accelerated past COVID. So, and I've been investing in people in Asia and all over. It doesn't matter anymore.
And what's your favorite tech company, tech product? I know you're into the fitness products. You like Tonal, you like Peloton?
I like Tonal. I love my Peloton, actually. If anyone from Peloton's listening, please can you just allow me to watch Netflix or whatever else when I'm doing a cool down? Because it's kind of ridiculous that I cannot watch Netflix on my Peloton screen or my trade screen.
I just ordered one. I didn't know that.
They make me pay $50 a month, but I can't watch what I want to watch. I have to watch. And quite frankly, some of the instructors on Peloton are very annoying. So I'd rather just listen to music videos or watch Amazon Prime or Netflix, whatever. And I totally understand if they don't want to make it for non-paying customers, but for paying customers, we should be able to watch whatever the hell we want.
And would you listen to a financial show like me throwing in stock charts and quotes? I think there'd be a great financial Peloton
When I get on my bike, Howard, the last person I want to think about is you, no offense.
Okay, well, I didn't fully mean it. That was a cheap shot because I wasn't saying I would be, although I'd be willing to do it. I didn't think people should stare at me.
The last thing I want to see is a sweaty Howard in front of me.
No, but I agree with last. That'd be horrific. But what I'm saying is, you love markets, you love financial. You're saying you can't watch Netflix. So what do? You got CNBC. There's no CNBC's unwatchable.
So I kind of turn I put a TV up in my office. I've got a TV in front of my Pelotons because that's the only way I can watch. What I've been watching recently is that Formula One series on Netflix. I heard it's great. It's so good. So the Drive to Survive series. So literally it's like 45 minutes or so per episode. Perfect. Jump on, hit the bike, watch Formula One. I love watching TV shows when I'm biking just because it gets your mind off it and you can kind of time box it and you don't feel like you're wasting time. I hate binge watching TV in bed, right? Because you're lying there doing nothing.
Outside of crypto, is there a favorite company in tech that you feel like is a stock or something that you like that is not undervalued, but just under-discovered?
I'm actually not a big stock market guy. Believe it or not, I have very little stocks. Okay. I just, for me, stocks are kind of old school stuff, right? I know I'm 40 something, but I've never really been a big, the reason is I don't think you have an edge in the stock market. I don't think any individual investor has an edge in the stock market. You have no insights into the company. It's going to be
interesting as the next generation behind you is going to feel is bored. They're trading GameStop.
Well, they're gambling. They're not trading. They're gambling. This is called a spade a spade. They're gambling. And that's fine. You want to gamble, that's fine. But for me, investing in stocks in the stock market, I don't think individual investors have an edge. The machine learning, the AI, the hedge funds, they have all the edges. If you want to invest in the stock market, go buy into those funds. Don't try and pick stocks. I think picking stocks is a foolhardy game. And look, if you want to go gamble, that's fine. Go pick a bunch of penny stocks and maybe you'll hit it big. I'd rather stick to crypto than that. So I don't really have a big stock portfolio. If I had to go buy, if you just have any years, your retirement money, what are you going to go buy with? I'll go buy Disney probably and Apple. And I'd buy maybe the 5 or 10 top stocks out there, which I think are going to be around in 50 or 100 years. That's about it. Outside of those, I'm not a big fan.
My 8 to 80 feels the same as you. I wrote about the flippening that's happening for me. It's just the alpha, pay the 2 and 20. I've been harping on this. Like, people should pay the fees and find people that truly are in frontier stuff. And
I mean, my money, like, I invested in your fund, right? In social leverage, because like, I'd rather go and I'd rather say, hey, Howard, you go and find some cool startups you guys think can build a good company and give me a good return. And you've done really well with the other investments like Robinhood and stuff. So like, I'm just happy to put my,
Oh, you got attacked.
Nah,
I saw it brewing, but I think we've been talking about this. I've been writing about this for a while. Is people have gotten so cheap that they've resorted to gambling, right? Because, like you said, the AI...
Because everything's overvalued. And we're in an asset bubble market right now as well. So people are taking ridiculous amounts of risks because yields have disappeared, because the money printing machine's gone nuts. And eventually the party stops. Now, I don't know when the party's going to stop. It might be this year, it might be next year. And this is why you got to own some Bitcoin. You got to own some crypto, because you've got some hedge against what's going to go on. But you should be diversified. I'm not a big fan of individual stock picking. I'd rather do funds. I'd rather do portfolio
and pay the fees. You're looking for frontier markets. So we're on the same page there. It's a good take to end it. I appreciate your time and all the help in getting myself into crypto over the years and introducing me to multi-coin. And Nikita, Knut, thanks for not saying anything. Let Vinny take the stage. And we'll talk to you soon, buddy, over the summer. I'll be back over the summer.
Thanks, Howard. Good chatting to you.
See you soon.
And Nikita, and Knut, take care, guys.
Thanks, Vinny.
So there you have it. We see eye to eye on so many subjects. It's people around the world, and he's calling a spade a spade. He sees what's happening in the markets, and it's true. Like, outside my 8 to 80, the brands that I know are going to be around in 30 to 50 years, products I use every day, I find it really hard to call. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Other than for fun and speculation, to try and beat the market is really hard. And if you're going to try and beat the market, pay the fees, find people that are experts at what they do. And you can succeed whether you're in San Diego or South Africa or whatever. So he has some really strong opinions, which is what makes, for great founders and outsized return. All right, you are listening to Panic with Friends. This is Howard, Nikita, Knut. Easy to find us, Apple or Spotify or your favorite podcast app. Search my name, Howard Lindzen, or Panic with Friends. We're coming at you once a week. Subscribe. You'll get the alert in your email. We're talking to founders, investors, traders, entrepreneurs, people in my network that will help us find a little alpha and make us a little money. We will see you next week.